What is up guys, Alex from Lakey Wargames here. Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to just be taking a quick look at a 1000 point Lumineth Realm Lords list using the new 3rd edition book that just came out. And this is one that I think would be both adequate for veteran players and new players at this level. Alrighty guys, so if you've seen my competitive NIGHTHAUNT list for 3rd edition video, this video is very much going to follow in the same suit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 1000 point list up on screen in just a second. We're going to go run through the list as it is, and then we're going to filter back through the units and why I've taken them and the reasons that I've placed them in this list. Now in the introduction, I did say that I think this list is perfect for both veteran and beginner players, and the reason for that is because this 1000 point list contains a lot of what I would consider core units to a Lumineth army. So when you eventually play up in points, so you go to your 1500 or your 2000 point games, a lot of the units in this 1000 point list will scale up with you, and they'll probably be units you'll be taking anyway. Also, if you've brought like a battle box or anything, you can make a few slight tweaks to this list, which we'll also go through at the end of this video, about how you can change the list slightly and be able to contain different units, which again are just made up of core units in the Lumineth collection, and is something you're probably going to want to be taking into your bigger games. So let's bring that list up and let's jump on in. Alrighty, so here's the list. This is the 1000 point Lumineth list using the new book. This is a list I'm personally going to be running myself. I'm currently just painting up the last few units to be able to field this. My Lumineth has been quite a slow burn project, but yeah. Anyway, let's jump on into the list. So, faction, Lumineth Realm Lords. The great nation of Zytrek. The grand strategy is no place for the weak. The grand strategy and the triumph I seem to have missed off here. They're completely flexible. That's just a flavour pick. You know, you can change those for whichever way you want. Doesn't really affect the list per se. No place for the weak I like, just because I like killing people's battle line is the main thing for that. And yeah, so let's run through all of the units in the list, and then we'll go back through and see why we chose the great nation we did. So for our hero slot, we have a Sonari Enlightener. This is the new hero that came in the Arcane Cataclysm box set. She is our general. She has the Lawmaster command trait, which is the one that allows her to take 2 additional spells from the Lore of Hysh. She has a Silver Wand artifact, which lets her cast an additional spell per turn, and now she's able to take 3 spells from the Lore of Hysh, which we've taken Overwhelming Heat, Protection of Hysh, and Total Eclipse. We've got 2 battle lines in this list, which is the minimum amount that we need for 1000 points. We've just got 2 10-man units of Venari Wardens. I don't usually write into my list that I take like the champion upgrades, but obviously they're all in there. And they've both taken the Speed of Hysh spell. Then for just normal units that don't fit the battle line requirement, we've got 20 Venari Sentinels, again with Speed of Hysh. We've got an artillery in here, which is our Star Shard Ballista, and we have 1 endless spell, which is the Purple Sun. Comes to 990 points in total, has 50 wounds across the army, so that's about average. I'd say quite a lot of lists, usually unless they're really elite lists, will have somewhere between sort of 80 to 100 wounds, so 50 at 1000 points is, I'd say, about on average. So why have we taken what we've taken? So we've gone for the great nation of Zytrek. Now this is the magic Lumineth. It just gives all of your wizards across the army +1 to all your casting, unbinding and dispelling rolls. The reason that I really like this nation is just because it's such a flat, static bonus. You get it all the time. You don't have to meet any requirements other than being a wizard. And in a list like this, we've got 4 out of our 5 units that are going to make use of it, so it's a very useful bonus across this army. Now, for the hero, our general, the Sonari Enlightener, like we said, we've given her Lawmaster and the Silver Wand. So she's a 2-cast wizard base. You give her the Silver Wand so she can cast an additional spell per turn. She's now a 3-cast wizard, so she is very pinpoint focal of this list. Lawmaster trait also lets her take 2 additional spells from the Lore of Hysh. She gets 1 anyway, so now she gets 2 additional ones. So if you put it all together, also knowing Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt and being a wizard able to cast the Purple Sun, she now has a choice of 6 spells total to be able to cast. She also has a spell on her War Scroll. Very situational, that one, but if you add that in as well, that gives her a range of 7 spells and she can cast 3 a turn. So she is absolutely just flinging spells left, right and centre with this loadout. Now, you put that in Zytrek, so she's always flat +1 to casting and unbinding. She's now a 3 cast, 2 unbind wizard, and she is going to be doing a lot of work for you. She also has the Rune of Enthly, special ability, so if she casts a spell from the Lore of Hysh, you roll a dice, and on a 3+, it basically double taps that spell. You get to resolve the effect for a second time. Now, this doesn't really work on the Protection of Hysh, but on Overwhelming Heat, which is probably one of my new favourite spells now. It's got a range of 24. You cast it, you pick a unit within 24 inches, and you can half their move. Now, that's the key for this, because as we go through the rest of the list, as you can see, we've got a 20 block of Sentinels and a Star Shard Ballista. Now, with the new Lumineth book, the Star Shard Ballista and the Sentinels have a rule that if they're within 12 inches of another Sentinel or Ballista unit, they get to add 6 inches to their range. So that bumps the Sentinels back up to their 30-inch range like they had before they were nerfed. So they go from 24 to 30, and the Ballista goes from 30 to 36. So that gives you a lot of long-range firepower. Combine that with the fact that you've got the Enlightener being able to double tap Overwhelming Heat to half movement. It gives you a lot of shooting and a lot of slow enemies, and you can use this combination to just pepper the enemy from afar while stopping their advance, so to say. The other reasons for Protection of Hysh and Total Eclipse, even though they can't really be double tapped, is just Protection of Hysh is absolutely great. Just being able to give up a bubble 5+ ward save to your Warden front line is, it's just going to keep them tanking a lot longer. You've got your Aether Quartz, you've got all-out defense to keep giving yourself +1 save. You can throw out a Mystic Shield if you wanted to, if you've got a lot of Ren coming your way, and then being able to throw a 5+ ward on top. Just means that your 2 Warden front line is just really, really tanky, because obviously the key to this list, looking at it, is the 20 Sentinels and the Ballista just absolutely popping off. So you've got the Enlightener double tapping Overwhelming Heat. Because she now has that silver one, she's a 3-cast wizard, so you can use all 3 of these spells. You can potentially slow 2 units with Overwhelming Heat, you can put up a ward save bubble, and then you could use Total Eclipse to make your opponent have to use 2 command points per command used. Your Wardens are basically just there to shield wall off your Sentinels. They're there to run onto objectives. With the new Shining Company, where they can now run in charge and don't break it, you can be a bit more flexible. They're a bit more of a Swiss Army knife kind of unit now. They can actually take the fight to the enemy. But to be honest, buffing up the range of the Sentinels and the Ballista, you're going to be looking at just shooting people to pieces and then running in and clearing them up with the Wardens. Or if it's a really aggressive, say you're playing against Ironjaws, you're just going to be using them to sort of screen out, take the brunt of the charge. Hopefully you've got Protection of Hysh up already, and like I said, use your Aether Quartz, all-out defense, Mystic Shield, Protection of Hysh, any sort of combo like that to be able to boost your save and just be able to take those charges and then counter punch out. The Ballista and the Sentinels we kind of already spoke about. They're just there to shoot holes into things. The Ballista gets bonuses versus monsters, so that's your anti-monster in this list. Sentinels are just great at doing what Sentinels already did. Big loss in Lambent Light, but again, that was a controversial pick and a subject for another day. It doesn't exist anymore, but still I think Sentinels will have, Sentinels will just do what they did. The odds down slightly on it, but it's still great to be able to shoot 30 inches, hopefully get your empowered Sun Metal weapons off, and just be able to pick things apart. Now, I've given all of the units Speed of Hysh as their spell, and the reason for that is just because the Enlightener is going to be doing all the utility spells, so your Overwhelming Heat, Protection of Hysh, Total Eclipse is mainly going to be her thing. Speed of Hysh will be great if you really need to double tap a unit's move. Speed of Hysh, low casting value, it just doubles the movement of a friendly unit. And then this way, if you really need to run onto an objective, you can. But most of the time you're going to be casting your empowered summoned weapons, so you'll be getting those mortals on 5s. But say if one Warden unit ties the enemy up in combat, the Sentinels already buff themselves, and then you really need to run to an objective, you've got Speed of Hish all across the board depending what's going on later on in the game, to be able to get your troops to where you need them. The end of spell, Purple Sun, we haven't really talked about, but this is just a great one it can be cast with any of your units, and what you want to try and do is throw that out as early as possible. Ideally, you want to try and get it out sort of turn 1-2. If you can get Overwhelming Heat off, you hopefully get that 3+ to double tap it. You're going to slow down 2 enemy units, throw a Purple Sun into the middle of them, so they're going to be at that -1 to save, and then when you're throwing your Sentinels and your Ballista shots their way, if they're being affected by the Purple Sun, they're now also -1 to save, so that makes your Ballista essentially Ren 3, and again, if they bring any monsters, the Ballista gets a buff to its damage against monsters. It can be a very, very nasty combo. Now, because you're in Zytrek, everyone is just flat +1 to cast. Your 2 units are Sentinels, and your 1 unit is Sentinel, and your 2 units are Wardens. So empowering their some metal weapons with an innate +1 to cast is going to be nice and easy. You've got your Aether Quartz for your magic boosting if you need, and you've also got the Shrine to be able to get that cheeky reroll in. So overall it doubles down on a very heavy magic shooting combination, and against someone who hasn't really got the questions of anti-magic, this list is really going to tear through them. Now, I did mention at the start that you can change this list just slightly and it's perfect for beginners. The reason for that is because we've got that odd 10 points spare. You could easily say take out 10 Wardens, sub in 5 Dawn Riders. Now, because the Wardens will either allow Sentinels or Dawn Riders to become battle line, you can drop that 10-man Warden unit, fill in your flavour, and just be able to fill in that battle line. Same can also be said for the Blade Lords. If you'd rather have a unit of 5 Blade Lords in, you can drop 10 Wardens. Ideally, if you didn't like that Sentinels that much, I probably wouldn't recommend it as much. Like I was going to say, if you wanted to drop a unit, probably drop the Wardens to put in either Dawn Riders or Blade Lords. But you could also drop 10 Sentinels, do the same thing. So you have 10 Sentinels and a Ballista, still perfectly good at what they do. I'm just a bit one of those where I like to go a bit overkill, and 20 Sentinels will definitely get the job done. But that option is there if you wish to use it. So that just means, you know, if maybe you don't have 20 Sentinels, or maybe you don't have 20 Wardens, maybe you've just got 1 box of each, that just means if you'd rather have something like Dawn Riders or Blade Lords in, then you can put those in instead. You've got the Sonari Enlightener, which is your Sonari hero, so if you wanted Blade Lords to be your battle line and not your Sentinels, because in this current General's Handbook, you know, your battle line units are susceptible to the with the veterans. So you can pick and choose what falls into your battle line in that way. So that's pretty much it for this list. It's very magic heavy. It's got the ability to tie down the enemy, pump them full of holes. You've got great anti-monster with your Purple Sun and your Ballista. You can snipe out heroes with your Sentinels. You buff your own ranges, and your 2 blocks of Wardens, hopefully with protection of Hish up, can take a charge too. So it's quite a nice, well-rounded list in my opinion. This is what I'm currently running. I'm just painting up the last few units, and I can't wait to get all the feedback in. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of this list? Is this something you would personally run, or would you run something completely different? I look forward to hearing what you guys come up with, and as always, stay safe, happy wargaming.